My treatment at Phoenix Rising was amazing. Just being vulnerable in these rooms really opened me up. Learning how to be honest for the first time in my life, I was able to gather the tools that I desperately needed to live a life in sobriety.
I had no desire to live prior to coming here. I've found new passions and new hobbies, friends and relationships, everything that makes for a wholesome life here. My life has truly changed for the best since my time here.
What makes us unique here at Phoenix Rising is that individualized care where the clients are surrounded and supported by our staff all the time. Every single step that they go through or every change that they go through is a big deal. It's an opportunity for them to relapse if they're not supported. So I make sure that we're there for them in every single step of the way. A lot of them have been through multiple programs. Some haven't been to any programs. So we try and meet them exactly where they're at in their experiences, in their life, in their current situation that they're dealing with. Recovery is possible. Whatever they got themselves into, legal problems, family problems, whatever the problems that they got going on in their lives, that they can recover from it and live a totally different life and better life than they could have ever imagined. So after they're done with us, they can continue with us on an individual basis, on an outpatient basis, where they can come and attend a group once a week if they wanted to. They could continue therapy with the therapist that they started with when they first entered treatment, and they can keep that therapist as long as they want to. And that kind of relationship builds long-term success, and we want to make sure that our clients get that. Addiction is such a lonely experience and such a lonely time. You don't have to do that by yourself. We're here to help you walk through every single thing that you got going on. Here at Phoenix Rising, what we want to help you do is rise out of the ashes and your addiction and your disease to a new and brighter future.
Aloha, my name is Ben Kaneaiakala, and again, thank you for joining me today for our first live stream here on YouTube. This is quite a change, and to be able to do something so modern, and it seems like it's the thing that's happening within our social media world, and in getting ourselves out there, and offering, and letting people know that there's help and resources available, no matter what is going on, whether you're struggling with an addiction of alcohol and drugs, or sex, or gambling, or depression, or anxiety, or stress, that there's resources that are available to all of us. We just have to kind of, what we're going to be talking about today, which is step one, is get into um, the surrender, the admission of powerlessness and unmanageability that's outlined in the 12-step program. And there's probably a 12-step program for just about any struggle as human beings might have. So the principles that are taught, or discussed, or done in the 12-step program go right across all of our God-given instincts of pride and ego, and anger, and lust, and greed, and envy, and sloth, and all those, we tend to call them the seven deadly sins, but they're God-given, and a lot of the times, we think, or the thinker, or the thinking, our ego, thinks that it needs to figure it all out. But these instincts, or these seven instincts, were God-given. They're meant to function without our thinking. They're just supposed to naturally do its thing. And then, but we've been conditioned and grew up differently, that we needed to, we created all these labels and identities, and calamity and experiences, and we get caught up in our obsessive, repetitive thinking over and over and over again, every day, no matter what is going on. We're so identified with our thinking that there's no way that we can get to the true self, or to our being. And I heard this one time stated that we needed to switch how we looked at us as being human beings to being human, and to bring this kind of consciousness, or a higher power, if you like, or a power greater than yourself, as the program likes to talk about, or just a being, just to be able to create and bring that consciousness into everything that we do, so that it's not run by our thinking. And a lot of the times, what ends up happening is it just creates more pain and suffering for ourselves. So step one, as we're going to discuss here, gives us an opportunity to surrender, to open up a little bit. So I'm going to bring up, I changed it up a little bit, because it's something that I feel is really important for us, or at least for the people that I've worked with, and also in my sobriety and recovery. So as you can see, I put here that we admitted that we were powerless over our thinking, and that our behaviors had become unmanageable. So what I wanted to do was go even a little deeper than just the specific problem that we might be having, or struggle that we might be having, and look at it in kind of a broader or deeper view in regards to our thinking, how we think, what's going on between my two ears, and my thinking behind some of the pain and suffering, or the struggles, or the irritabilities, or the anger, or the resentments, or whatever the struggle might be for us or for you, that we are able to bring that to the forefront, and at least start recognizing that a lot of my challenges or my difficulties starts in my thinking. And so if we can become aware of how our thinking is creating unmanageability within our behaviors, a lot of the times the only way that we know that we're powerless, or there's some unmanageability, is if we get into some legal problems, or we get into problems with or we get into problems with the partner, or the wife, or the kids, or the job. A lot of the times what we do is we end up using external things to help us determine that we've hit a bottom, or even that I'm struggling a little bit. Like, it's always such a hard thing, and we all do it to some degree. We all struggle. Nobody's exempt from the struggle, whether it's anxiety, stress, overeating, sex, drinking and using drugs, anything to get ourselves out of our thinking. And because our thinking goes into our bodies, it goes from thinking to bodies to emotions, and we don't even know which one comes first anymore. But it starts off with the thinking, and as a result of the thoughts that we're having, the repetitive, constant thinking, the next damn thing after another type of scenario. Mahalo Kai, thank you, brother, for checking it out, and for being here. You guys can shoot me comments, or you guys have questions or anything, just shoot me a comment, and I'll be more than happy to answer. But we just want to continually be at least in this process of admitting that we're powerless over our thinking. Just the awareness that our thinking has created some repetitive outcomes that really haven't helped me very much, and to be able to do this kind of admission hits a lot of hits a lot of ego and a lot of pride, because it's like, I don't admit powerlessness. I am not powerless. You know what I mean? I'm a man. And we get into all these roles and all these identities and all these labels. And we think that those labels and roles and identities is who we are as a person. You know what I mean? And what's going to happen if it's no longer here? Like, what's going to happen to me if it's like that? So that's a very difficult thing to admit, that what I've been thinking, that there's something wrong with that, which is, like I said, which isn't a very easy thing to admit. You know what I mean? So anybody getting to this point of powerlessness or recognizing unmanageability is coming to a place that is very difficult. It's very challenging. Nobody wants to admit that. The ego will try, and the thinking will try and figure it out. I'm just going to try and figure it out, and in the meantime, I'm just going to, continue unmanageable behaviors until I can figure it out. You know what I mean? And a lot of times it takes an outside entity or an outside force outside of us to say, yo, you need to go and do something about this. This is a major problem. You know what I mean? Or this is creating a problem. Your anger is creating a problem. The amount of money you're spending is creating a problem. You're getting drunk and passed out all the time is creating a problem. And so a lot of the times what we end up doing is we end up finding people that can support our unmanageability and make it look manageable. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll go out and look for people friends or family members that have similar types of values and beliefs or thinking, and hang around them because my shit doesn't look that bad when I'm hanging. It actually is normal. You know what I mean? And so that's what we end up doing, is we end up finding people that can support our unmanageability in the way that we behave, and then in the way that we think. So what we'll do is we'll go out and look for people who think the same way that we do in our struggles, and look for comparisons. We'll compare ourselves to people, places, and things. We'll justify, rationalize, minimize. We'll do all these things to help keep us, what we think, in control, or keep our lives manageable. And we go to those lengths, you know what I mean? And it's just a matter of time when that comes to an end at some time. And the thing about it is that can go on for years, you know? And if you lose a marriage, oh well, you know, it was her fault, or it was his fault, or you know what I mean? Like, we can totally just get into this pointing the finger, blaming, see, you're the reason why everything's all messed up, da 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 da. So when we get into this step one of admitting that we're powerless over our thinking, there's a lot of awareness and admitting that has to go on with ourselves about, wow, okay, I think I have some problems that I really need to speak to someone about, or go see a therapist for, a counselor or a mentor, or somebody that we can go to, you know, about what's going on inside. Not so much what's going on the outside, because if we fix the inside or we work on the inside, the outside automatically does fixing itself. So when we get into this first paragraph of step one, it asks us, who cares? You know, that's a very important question about who cares. Who cares about this problem? Me? Somebody else? So we have to determine who cares about this situation, or this unmanageability that's going on in my behavior and or my thinking. You know, is it someone else? Do I care enough to do something about it, or don't I? You know, so that's a really important little question there about who cares. You know, and I think that it's really important to ask ourselves that question about, do I care? And in order for me to answer that question truthfully, I gotta get present with what's going on. You know, I gotta be able to see it, to recognize it, to become aware. You know. And because what's happening is that my self-centeredness or my ego thinks that I'm hurting nobody. And so if we care, or if there's some care within us, we can then see, oh, the kids are suffering, oh, the job's suffering, oh, that this is suffering. We can then see that there are other things or other people that we are impacting as a result of what I'm thinking and what I'm doing. Yeah, in my behaviors. So we gotta, hopefully we can get to a place of, if it's really that bad, at least your initial motivation is going to be, I care. You know, I care enough to ask for help. I care enough to seek help. I care enough to go and get help. I care enough to keep showing up for help. You know what I mean? So that word care, it's a very important word, and it means a lot. Just the word care, you know, care for ourselves, care for others. You know, if you know we say that we're caring people, then care, then recognize, then become aware of how our thinking might be creating some pain and suffering for myself and for others. So it's something that we really have to be aware of as we go down this path of step one, you know. And then it says the next part is, who cares to admit complete defeat? Oh my God, who the hell wants to admit complete defeat, surrender. You know what I mean? And a lot of the times we won't even get there until it's so bad. You know, up until that point, you know, we will keep trying and we keep trying and we keep trying and we keep trying, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So a lot of the times, that hitting of a bottom or the admission of complete defeat is usually in a state of a lot of pain and suffering with ourselves and with the world and the things that are outside of ourselves. You know what I mean? So who cares to admit complete defeat? Believe me, the world is not going to end. I am not going to die. Things aren't going to get worse as a result of me surrendering and admitting complete defeat. It is not going to. A matter of fact, your life is going to get significantly better as a result of this caring and this admission of complete defeat. You know? Because that kind of surrender, that kind of admission, that kind of humility, changes things. You know? You're not just having to rely upon yourself, you know, to do everything. You're not just having to do everything by yourself or on your own. None of that's having to happen. You know, you don't need to do that, you know. And if you do this process of admitting powerlessness and unmanageability, I can promise you, your life won't get any worse than it already is. That's for sure. And the other part of this is that it's not just an admission of one time, or I just got to admit complete defeat or admit powerlessness today and then that's it. No, this is something that we're going to have to do every day. You know, throughout the day, that this admission of complete defeat has to continually happen over and over and over and over and over again throughout our day. It doesn't mean that we become nobody or we become nothing. It's just that what we're doing is we're bringing in this humility or this consciousness as a result of the surrender, and we're bringing that into everything. You know, and just bringing that whole process to the forefront, and we're not having to deal with it by ourselves. Kai had asked, or had mentioned, I always thought I was always doing the right thing, and everyone else was wrong, and they were also the problem. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Could you bring up the concept of yielding? Can you use a refresher? So the concept of yielding, or it's another word that's used in this process of surrender. It's kind of like a yield sign, right? We just need to yield, look around. Okay, let me see if get out of car is coming, and then we go. You know. So every day before we decide things or we make decisions about things, that we yield, that we surrender, that we pause, you know. And if you're coming into a 12-step program, or you're looking at getting a therapist, or you have a therapist, run things by the resources that you have. You know, if you're in a 12-step program, then what they suggest is that in the process of this whole thing of admitting complete defeat, you gotta go to meetings. That's one of the recommendations. Get into service, you know, help others, get a sponsor who can help you work the steps, get into a step study or study the steps and start working the steps, and then implementing prayer and meditation. So there's 5 basic foundational things that are recommended for us in the 12-step program. So if we're at this place of surrender and the admission of powerlessness and unmanageability, then that means that we need help. There's that surrender means that I'm open to help, that I'm open to resources. Well, one of the most cheapest, most cost-effective way for us to get help is at a 12-step program. And you'll find out that there's people out there that are struggling just like us, that we're not so unique and so different, but that support system is there, you know. And in the process of yielding, we get to use those resources, those new friends that we made. We can use, you know, if you haven't been a big prayer meditation person, you know, you start learning how to pray, and the 12-step program gives you a lot of free prayers that you can use, and basic prayers, and one of the most simplest ones is just praying for the knowledge of His will, whatever that higher power might be for you, and for the power to carry it out, you know. And we get into praying, and then we start learning how to meditate, you know, and all this type of stuff. Those resources help keep us. Hopefully, we don't make it into an ego thing, but those resources, or the basis of the program, is there to help us or stay in a state of presence, or stay in a state of this admission of powerlessness and unmanageability, and just keeps us open to new things, and not relying upon just what's between our two ears like we always have, because that's what got us into the situation that it is. And we've been so conditioned our entire lives to think and behave the way that we always have been. And so that thinking isn't just going to change overnight. We are going to resort back to what we know all the time. So this process of staying open, this process of admitting complete defeat, is a very important action. For me, it's an action, and what it does is that it puts me in a place, or it catapults me. If this is true, this admission of complete defeat is true for you, it'll catapult you into willingness, into doing whatever I gotta do to get the help that I need, you know, every day. And that's what this step has done, and that's why it's something that I do every day, throughout the day, in everything that I do, that the principle of this admission of complete defeat, or the admission of powerlessness and unmanageability, has to be done all the time. Because if I don't do it all the time, then I'm just taking back my will. My ego is running the show again. So who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one, of course. They even let us know, practically no one, of course. They say that every natural instinct, and I have it up on the screen here, every natural instinct cries out against the idea of personal powerlessness. It is truly awful to admit that we have obsessed, warped thinking, creating destructive behaviors that only an act of being can remove from us. And that's what we have to hopefully for ourselves get to that place of recognizing that it is truly awful to admit that I have obsessed, warped thinking. And as a result of this obsessed, warped thinking, or this constant voice in the head, or this every one damn thing after another, that type of, just that constant, we can get so wrapped up into labels and identities and roles and just all kinds of stuff. That's what that obsessed, warped thinking does. And what happens is that it creates destructive behaviors. It brings about pain and suffering to myself and to others. And if we can become aware of that, if we can just bring a little bit of awareness to that, man, there's a lot. And they even give us a solution in this first paragraph of step 1, that only an act of being can remove it from us, or only an act of a higher power, or as it says in a book, an act of providence can remove it from us. I use being because being doesn't have a lot of these preconceived ideas or history like God or Jesus or higher power or a lot of those types of words. There's a lot of controversy and a lot of things. So I just use being to just the act of being, to just be in the now, to just be now. And when I can bring my thinking to just now or to be now or in the moment, it removes the obsessive thoughts. It removes the warped thinking. It dissolves it right away. But I have to stay there. It doesn't I just do it one time and then I'm going to be good the rest of the day. I have to bring that practice or this act of being in everything that I do. It cannot stop. It cannot change. That this is part of the practice. So besides those 5 basics, we use those 5 basics or those foundational tools to help us stay in being, to help us stay in presence, to help us stay presence. No self. Yeah, if we're in being, we're in no self. There's no problem. And so when we can bring that kind of practice into our lives, there's true freedom. There's true peace, true love within us. Not peace, love, and joy that we find in worldly things, but the true peace and love that's found in my being within. And it's not found in my thinking, my obsessed warped thinking, And I've been around the program for a long time, and I'm also educated, And so it's I'm not talking about intellect, and all that stuff. We can use our thinking in a good way, in a very powerful way, if we just bring the being or the consciousness into the thinking or into the doing. So rather than being, or rather than us as human beings, I like to equate human as our thinking or as our ego, and the being is our inner being or higher power, if you might want to call it that, and change it into being. So if we focus more on being human, the results of us being human gets better. Kai had said, I like how you have said that you can only truly care when you're in being. Yeah. That initial caring really has to come from within. Because what can happen is that we can get so caught up in our ego again and our head that we can definitely lose that willingness, or that what comes out of this admission of complete defeat. So it's really, really important that we do that. Again, I just wanted to do our first live YouTube video here today, talking about step 1 and the first paragraph of step 1, and we'll continue next week. Leave comments or suggestions on what you might want me to cover next week, Saturday, same time, same place. Hopefully I can mess with this YouTube thing and make it look really nice and all that stuff. But this is just raw me, man. This is just me, and I do a Zoom group every day from Monday through Friday. That if you're interested in, please get in touch with me through any of our social media or messenger, and I'll be more than happy to talk with you and invite you to our daily Zoom group, where we talk about a lot of this stuff, and we talk about what's going on in people's lives and how we can implement and practice these tools into their life. It's Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. California time. Phoenix Rising Addiction Center is located here in Laguna Hills. And again, thank you guys for watching, and this video will be available on our YouTube channel at Phoenix Rising Addiction Center. And I just want to say mahalo for being here, and looking forward to continually sharing um, my experience, strength, and hope about the steps and how to apply this and implement this into your life. So, thank you guys very much. Looking forward to seeing you next week. Mahalo.
All right, aloha, and my name is Ben Kaneaiakala here at Phoenix Rising Addiction Center. Thank you guys for following. Thank you for being here and for listening. And I hope that this is helping in some way. Today we are going to start on part 9 of our Step 2 series out of the 12 and 12. And we're definitely going down this path of discussing God and religion and some of our upbringing in regards to this. So as we had talked about in the last in the last video, we're just going to continue along that path. Okay. I know this is a very touchy subject. It's not a subject that a lot of people are open to. But again, I just ask that you just stay open. Or just be open, to what's being read, what's coming out of this, and my experience, strength, and hope around what I'm reading and what I've gone through in my own life, in my own sobriety and recovery from addiction. So I'm going to continue on. We are on page 31 on step 2 of the 12 and 12. So as doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, men and women are professionals of this field or psychology have often observed defiance is the outstanding characteristics of many of us who struggle with alcoholism, drug addiction, sex addiction, gambling addiction, eating disorder, whatever it might be. So it's not strange that lots of us have had our day of defying God himself. Sometimes it's because God has not delivered us the good things of life which we specified. As a greedy child makes an impossible list for Santa Claus, more often though, we had met up with some major calamity. Traumas, abandonment, there's all kinds of things, calamity. And to our way of thinking, lost out because God deserted us. Right? That's one of the most where's God? Where was God during all of this? Why would God let this happen? Why would God let that happen? Why did I have to go? Why did my mom and dad have to do that? Why, I mean, it's endless. The girl we wanted to marry had other notions. We prayed God that she'd change her mind, but she didn't. We prayed for healthy children and were presented with sick ones or none at all. We prayed for promotions at business and none came. Loved ones upon whom we heartily depended were taken from us by so-called acts of God. Then we became drunkards and alcoholics and addicts or whatever it might be, and asked God to stop it or help us, but nothing happened. This was the unkindest cut of all. Damn this faith business, we said. And that kind of defiance, that kind of resistance, justified, man, we can go down this road of justification for why we are not going to ask for help. Why we are not going to go down this path of coming to believe in a power greater than myself. There is no power greater than myself. I am the power greater than myself. It's me. And ultimately, that's what it is. It's just all these things become justifications and excuses and rationalizations. And again, there were painful experiences or things that we went through. I'm not denying any of that. But have we taken it too far? Have we used it to justify us not doing what we need to do to take care of ourselves and take responsibility for our actions? There is nothing that we can do that will change or make better the things that have happened to us. None. There is absolutely nothing that we can do
to change what has happened in the past. And there is nothing that we can do about projecting what's going to happen in the future. So really, when we look at these types of defiances, or defiance as a whole, we have to look at, why are we defying? What's happening that we're being so defiant? What is being defiant going to do for us? It's just going to create more pain and more suffering, more resentments, more excuses, more reasons to use to justify us doing what we want to do, or the ego doing what the ego wants to do. Just think about me and I and me and I and me. Don't you know it's all about me? You know? And that's what defiance does. It keeps us stuck. It's another form of resentment. And when we have resentments, we have justifications. We have rationalizations when we have resentments. This is why. And we just keep going back and back and back and back to that same old stuff over and over and over and over and over again. For years, our entire lives, we stay stuck in these repetitive cycles of thinking in our head. The voice in the head. And we get stuck in time. Time of the past and time of the future. And if you really look at it and ask yourself, how much time do you actually spend thinking of the past and of the future that you have any kind of control over? There is none. You know? And I'm not saying that we don't need to go and dig and look into some of these experiences that we've had in the past and to work through them and all that stuff. But what happens for at least for me in my experience was that I would stay stuck in that. I would stay stuck in the repetitive. No matter how much I would talk about it, I would just continue using it as see, this is why. Oh, poor me. You know? And I would just stay stuck in that. Even after working the steps, even after going through therapy, I would continue using it as an excuse. Because that's what the ego does. That's what my thinking does. It's just repetitive. It just keeps cycling. And the only solution, you know, besides doing all the acts of being in a 12-step program or going through therapy and talking about all these things, truly, in order for me to let go of time, the past and the future, I have to stay present. I have to be now. I have to be in no thinking or no thing. Rather than nothing, like nothing's bothering me, I'm not saying about being in nothing or be nothing. I'm just saying be in no thing. Means don't get caught up in people, places, and things. You know, don't get caught up in the future or in the past. It's okay to plan for the future. We can set goals. We can plan this. But what happens is that the thinking stays on it and just cycles down and just manifests all kinds of stuff that we have no idea what's going to happen. We can do the best we can at planning something and taking steps to accomplish that goal, and let it go. Allow that to be. And then get back and focus on the now and in the present moment. Because truly, that's all we have is the moment. So I hope this helps you as we continue this series on Step 2 in Coming to Believe. And today we're talking about defiance and how defiance on God, defiance on anything. Just that term of to defy. And what does that mean? I hope this has helped you. And again, thank you guys for being here. If there's any comments or questions, please leave them. Follow us on our social media platforms, on YouTube. We will start going live and having some live streaming going on where we can have a collaborative talk about the steps. And I'm looking forward to that. So you guys have a great day.
You